Welcome to the show. I'm JJ Flazanes, your empowerment strategist and producer. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Today we have back Cyndi Dale with her new book, Chakras, Food, and You. Tap your individual energy system for health, healing, and harmonious weight. But before we get to this fascinating, impactful, inspiring conversation, I want to make a few announcements and invitations. And the first is I am doing a free webinar on Wednesday, November 17th, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And it is on the 5 reasons money holds you back from living your purpose. Again, that's 5 reasons money holds you back from living your purpose. And you can register for this webinar. It's a very simple page. It's jjflazanes.com/purpose. I am only announcing it here. I'm only inviting you, the listeners, to come into this free webinar so we can go over the 5 reasons that money holds you back from living your purpose. The next announcement I want to make is that I did announce at the boot camp and before and after that I was going to be launching a new level 1 empowerment strategist certification in January, and I have changed that. There are some things I want to retool and fine tune before doing this again, and I think I've bit off more than I can chew, and I don't want to be out of balance, so I'm going to push it to April. So if you're interested, I will open up registrations and applications in February of 2022, but I am not doing the Empowerment Strategist group in January. It will now start in April of 2022. However, there are a few spots left in the Inner Circle Mastermind, and I'd love to have you if you are ready to grow, scale, or start a business. But again, I'm just going to say if you're going to start a business, you know what you want to do or know in the area that you want to work. I think I'm really interested in working with those of you that are super committed to this and have time and space and are willing to create time and space in your life to focus on it so we can really make some amazing impact and movement within a year's time. If you want to apply for the mastermind and get on a call with me to see if it's a fit, you can go to jj'sinnercirclemastermind.com. Again, that's jj'sinnercirclemastermind.com. Learn more about the group, see some of the testimonials, read about what we focus on, fill out the application, and get on a call with me to see if it's a fit for you. And I will tell you if it's not. jj'sinnercirclemastermind.com. So Cyndi Dale, who was on the show before, is an internationally renowned author, speaker, healer, and business consultant, and the author of 28 books about energy medicine, intuition, and spirituality. In addition, she has worked with over 70,000 clients and presented hundreds of seminars and workshops across the Americas and in Russia, England, Wales, Amsterdam, Iceland, Costa Rica, Belize, Morocco, Peru, Scotland, and more. She's also a favored teacher and healer for China, leading in-person and online classes, and has been published in over 17 different languages. And you can find out more about her at cindydale.com, as well as buy her book. That's CYNDIDALE.com. And again, all of these links are in the show notes. Enjoy today's show. Welcome back to the show, Cyndi.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you, JJ.
First of all, your book is beautiful. I just want to mention that I have it in my hand right now, Chakras, Food, and You. Tap your individual energy system for health, healing, and harmonious weight. I mean, it's a nice, heavy hardcover, beautifully, of course, because it's chakras. So it's like rainbow color. And I love it. And I just really want to encourage everybody to take a time to not only listen to this interview, but really buy the book because there's so much in here and there's so much good stuff. And we're not going to be able to cover everything that's in the book, of course, on today's interview. I want to just go over the concepts and some of the things that Cyndi does uniquely that are possibly new to you that were new to me. So first, I want to ask you, Cyndi, why did you write this book?
You know, I've actually been working with these concepts, which is about chakras, food, wellness in you for almost 30 years. I have to say I started when I was 6 years old. So let's just leave the age there. But for honestly, for decades, JJ, I have noticed that people have a major chakra, a major energy system through which they tend to operate. And there's different foods correlated to different chakras. And so once you have a sense of who you are from a chakra point of view, it just makes selecting food so much easier because you can stoke yourself in a way that's going to keep you as healthy as possible.
I think it's a very unique system. And I'll be honest, I've been afraid to take the quiz for two reasons. One, looked a little overwhelming at first. I'm going to do it, but I didn't want to do it before this interview. I wanted to sort of lead into that. And because I don't like writing in books. So I'm going to have to get a separate piece of paper to write this out because there is a quiz. And I do love that you even recommend that if you want to take the quiz for your pet, that's something that people can do. And so if you're wondering what the chakra system is of your pet, which I actually probably should do. I have 3 girl cats, and one of them, my youngest, definitely needs the most amount of healing. And she seems to respond differently, although she's doing well, to some foods and ideas. And so that would be a really interesting thing to go down. But what I want to start with this book, one of the very first concepts that sticks out to me, besides the fact that we're looking at chakras and food, which quite honestly, I have done before at my Releasing What Weighs You Down event. I did correlate the colors of chakras with foods. However, I didn't, and I haven't ever pinpointed, if you will, that people have a major chakra, and you do 12. So can we discuss when that started, when you created that system, that your 12 chakra system, and where we are with the numbers? Like, is the first chakra still the same as, a lot of us know it to be? Is it still the root chakra, or are there chakras before we get to the root?
Yeah, let's talk about chakras in general and these 12 in specific, because I think it's hard enough for many of us to keep track of 7 chakras. It's sort of like having 7 children. And then you think about 12 and you feel like the old woman in the shoe and you just want to be done. So it's very simple. I saw chakras when I was a kid. I didn't know what they were called. They were just orbs, energy lights that were up and down the spine, like the traditional 7 chakras are that we usually work with in yoga and most Western systems. But I also saw 5 additional balls of light, and they never disappeared. I could always perceive them. I knew I had them. Other people, other beings had them. Not quite sure about plants, but they do have their own chakra system. And so when I started to work with chakras in my late 20s, even before then, probably my early 20s, I started to kind of get hip on the fact I was seeing something that was really real. I didn't understand why all these books said there were 7 chakras. Yeah, there were, and the numbers are the same. 1 through 7 in my 12 chakra system are the same as in the other books, but I couldn't disappear or de-think about these other 5. And so my very first book that I wrote maybe 30 years ago was the 12 chakra system. And what's exciting is you don't have to do 12 chakras. There's nothing that says you have to do 7. There's actually hundreds of cultures that teach about chakras. And I've been sort of compulsive about researching chakra systems. There are systems that have anywhere from 3 to hundreds of chakras. We just sort of got stuck in our mind that there are only 7, though that particular author that we're copying, he called himself Sir Arthur Avalon. His real name was John Woodrow back in the 1920s. He even said there's only 6 chakras. And he goes, then there's this shining light on the top. So it just sort of goes to show you that once our mental faculties codify something, we tend to think it's the only truth. And I work with 12. I like working with 12. I saw 12 because it affords a more personalized approach to our abilities, to our gifts, to our intuition. It just fills out our human experience.
So can we go over them really quickly, the traditional 7 and then your additional 5?
Absolutely. So the first chakra in all of these systems is the same. It's red. It's in the hip area. That's the one that's about physicality. Jump up a step. We've got the second chakra. It's usually considered orange. It's all about emotions and creativity. And you can even feel the emotions if you tune in there. Third chakra, solar plexus, typically seen as yellow. Power, personal will, thoughts, mentality. Go up into the chest. This is probably the most kind of beloved chakras, and it's in the center of the chakra system. It's the 4th chakra, often called the heart chakra, considered green, and it is all about relationship and healing. So now we jump up into the throat area. That's a blue chakra, and it's about communication. And typically, it is about communication, even psychically and intuitively. Every single chakra has subtle or psychic capacities. This is the one through which we receive guidance, and of course, we communicate. Sixth chakra in the brow, typically considered to be violet. That's also called the third eye. It's the center of vision, visualization, self-image. Now we're going to near the end of our first trajectory of the so-called traditional 7 chakras. Seventh chakra, it's the crown chakra. It's on the top of the head. It's white. It's our connectivity. That's our spirit connection. Now we're going off-road. Little bit over that, there's like a black dot. It also connects to the thymus gland, which is an immune gland in the high heart area. Black, silver, that's the 8th chakra. That's the place in the path of the mystic or the shaman. If you're really into other worlds and other dimensions, you're working and interacting through your 8th chakra. An arm's length above the head is the 9th chakra. That shows up in other systems, cultural systems around the world too, often called the soul chakra, or sort of like a divine luminescent body. I have a boring term for it. It's the 9th chakra. It's gold. It also connects to the diaphragm. It's fascinating. It's about harmonizing, but it also has codes that can help your body be what it's supposed to be, as well as your emotional self. And those are really supposed to be able to go down into the physical and subtle body. Now we're going to flip underneath the feet, 10th chakra. I see it as brown. It's your natural connections to the stars, to the earth, to animals. 11th chakra is rose. It's around the hands and the feet, and it's in the auric field, the area around the body. And we've kind of lost track of this, so no wonder people didn't remember it. It commands forces. So back in the day, when shamans would change the weather or raise the dead, or we had Jesus walking on the water, that's 11th chakra. So it literally moves visible and invisible energies. The 12th chakra is really unique to each person. It's sort of more of a flotation device around you. I think of it as translucent and opaque, and it's very unique to your own essence. And I usually access it in the very center of the heart. So those are the 12 chakras. And as you can see, those top 5 beyond the 7 traditional spinal ones are, really unique. You've got nature, you've got commanding, you've got all kinds of other abilities associated with them that we typically can tap into through the standard 7 chakra system.
Cool. So now let's add that you have a quiz in the book that can help people determine what their strongest or dominant chakra is. Is that correct?
Yes. And I did start working with that idea 25, 30 years ago. And I'm not the only one to do that. There's many, many esoterics for the last, decades, if not hundreds of years, who have actually said people have a strong chakra. There was an author, Jack Schwartz, who wrote back in the 70s, who proposed that. There are many people who said, these chakras are in the body, but they're not only physical, they're psychological and spiritual. And so your soul, given its own personality, its uniqueness, and what it wants to achieve in this lifetime, will probably need to use one chakra, one or even a couple chakras more than the others, because they contain the abilities and the types of strengths that we need to tap into. So you can take the quiz in the book. It's a long quiz. Some of us like quizzes, some of us don't, right? I totally get it. It's even easier than taking the quiz to figure out your strengths. I mean, in that particular chapter, I also summarize the different chakras with a paragraph each. Read through that and go, there I am. And if you can't see yourself, I bet a friend will see you. So, I never took the quiz for my 2 dogs, Honey and Lucky. I know the 12 chakras. I know exactly what type each of them are. Let's see. Communication, Honey, golden retriever, barks all the time. If I take him for a walk, he's going to eat at least 5 things off the road. Communication, mouth area, there's honey. Lucky, the lab, huge heart, tail thumps, big, big heart, looks at you with these melty eyes, and you can't help but give him snacks. All right. So he's 4th, he's heart based. So you can even glance through the descriptions of the chakras and, and kind of get a good read of who you are and what you're about. Now, JJ, my suspicion is that you use a lot of the 8th chakra. All right. And I'm going into that, not just to tell you that, but to add, how there's always fine print on any contract, like, yes, you have a main chakra, except if you're an 8th chakra person, or that's a really vital chakra for you to be using, that's the otherworldly person. That's a soul type that actually can not only use the 8th chakra, and connect to here, there, or everywhere, but can also access the gifts in the other chakras. So a shamanic type person can also be really physical, which is 1st chakra, can also be really emotional, which is 2nd chakra, can use the strengths, and can be impacted too by the weaknesses of all the other chakras. So an 8th chakra person can get confused and just go, I don't know, I like all snacks, because each chakra kind of has its own set of snacks it's going to go to when it's feeling low too. Or I like all foods, or I am all these types of people. So I typically tell an 8th chakra person, it's going to be easiest to monitor your wellness, maybe your sleep, meditation, food choices. And none of this is a law. I would never tell anybody to follow any diet meticulously, even my own. It's just, we're just bigger than that. And I typically tell an 8th chakra person, I recommend, kind of pick another chakra and ride it for a while, and maybe select a lot of your foods based on that. Maybe select some of your sleep behaviors or your wellness structures, just so you have a framework for your life.
So what's interesting is that because I do like quizzes. Yes. And yours is in the book. It's long, which is why I know it's a commitment. So it's not like an easy 1, 2, 3, boom, you're done kind of quiz. And I want to do it well, which is why I have my live event coming up this coming weekend. When we're recording this, I'm sort of running around, and I want to give it the time and attention that it needs, because I would love to explore this a little deeper. And when I look at just the regular chakras from 1 to 7, I deal with chakras too, and like how people are blocked, like if there's energy flowing through them, if they aren't connecting, if they aren't, like, how do we, and I know for me, I've had blocks and I've had issues both in the root and the sacral chakra, but I also feel like that's what I'm coming into expressing more of, and like being more in, like I'm moving into sacred feminine work. And that means taking that sacral chakra, which now is more healed than it's ever been, and even going deeper and wider and more expansive, if you will. But when I look at some of the descriptions and we look at, like, what's my goal here in life? What's my astrology? What's my soul type? What's my soul level? And I put all that together. I'm like, well, throat chakra is kind of a big deal because I'm a communicator and I'm a messenger. Yet I've never had any like real throat issues or anything like that. I don't know that I felt blocked. So it's just an interesting, and again, this is just first general, like, what's your strongest chakra? We haven't even gotten to the food stuff yet. And that's the cool part, is being able to take this system into another land, right? In terms of looking at diet, not for weight loss necessarily, but for optimal health. And I do appreciate that holistic view that you have about that going into this book, because there is a addictive behavior that I find comes with weight loss, that people are so focused on wanting to lose weight because they think they're going to feel better on the other side of it. And then they make choices based on whatever gets them the weight loss the fastest. But sometimes that choice of diet or just way of being ignores, again, the bigger spiritual questions and problems and issues that are being covered up by the emotional eating or by the weight. And I love this sort of integration of the spirit and the soul and the journey of us as humans in this lifetime with our food and that relationship. Because in my first book, Fit to Love, I had a chapter called A Food Love Affair. And it was about the relationship that we have with food, because we've gotten so far away from we look at food as a vehicle for weight loss, weight gain, or pleasure. And we don't honor its like growing it and cooking it and being with it and the ritual of it. And so I always want to bring people back to, because so many people don't cook, and I cook, and I find that that's such a way to heal some of the issues around food. When you don't touch it, you have no relationship with it, and all of a sudden now you're eating it. There's a disconnect energetically. So I love that. I feel like you're taking that concept I had, I mean, in your own way, in your own, obviously, and that like, that's like it's merging them together, like a food love affair, and making it about, and I'm always about that. It's about total well-being, not just about how you look or what the weight is, because, hey guys, if you think that weight loss is going to make you happy, it won't. Because when you get to the other side of the weight loss, something else will make you unhappy. You have to be happy first in order to get any of these things. But having a system like Chakras, Food, and You that Cyndi put together can help you activate probably more easily, being able to emotionally connect and get there because it flows better. Would that be accurate, Cyndi?
Oh, yeah. And I love that you have for a long time embraced that idea of a love affair with food, because, we're in a unique experience walking around with these bodies, and our bodies are made out of the cells of the earth. She's lending them to us. And we could even say the stardust from Father Sky. And so how awesome that we have borrowed cells and that we can nurture ourselves, with the good stuffs, with the bounty of the earth and the sky. And we grow up in situations where food is often used against us, or we're manipulated with it, or our mother or father has food issues, or our ancestors do. They were starved, they clean the plate club, and or our mother maybe or father cooked and didn't like doing that. And so every single morsel of food now, and when we were growing up, becomes associated with something. Sometimes it's neutral, sometimes positive, sometimes negative. And so we grow up with these subtle energetics coded into us, and literally that can be coded into food as well. And so to start from a place of I love food equates with saying I love my body, I love being alive, I love the earth, I love the stars. And what a healthier way to go through life that way. And there's actually studies, science studies, that suggest that if you're thinking positively about a food that you're eating, maybe chocolate cake, maybe pie, right? Whatever it is that the world's going to tell you is a bad food. But if you're thinking positively of it, guess what? It's really not going to have a negative effect in your body. Now, if you eat an entire cake because you think it's going to give you a positive feeling, that's a subtle association, and you're going to be disappointed, and then you're going to feel bad about yourself. So much of the gauging of who we are, what to eat, how to eat really needs to start and stop. And in the middle, the road needs to be all about food. Is this loving to myself? Am I cooking for somebody? Am I doing it out of love? When I'm eating, am I embracing the food and feeling loving feelings about it? So it all starts and ends there.
Well, I love that you mentioned that, because, in quantum physics and epigenetics, we are going to respond based on that energetic blueprint or picture that we have in our minds about the experience that we're going to have, and the energy that sort of fuels the choices that we're making. And I would agree. I mean, that to me there's nothing really higher than that when it comes to science. So, but I love that other sciences can prove that that's actually true. And what I love about, for me, the food love affair is also taking not just what's out there, but the energy of food, and looking at if I want something, how can I make a version of that is better for my body, that does feel, less bad in a way, or whatever, like depending on, what the ingredients are. And so as a cook, as a baker, as a chef, I look at, I don't look at my food choices as restrictive. I look at them as extremely, like, I have great boundaries, and I'm making very conscious choices, and I'm getting really creative so that I never feel restricted. And when we move into some of these foods in your book, and some of the things that they mean, and what recommendations you're making per chakra system, can you tell us two things? One, sort of, if there's any, it's not just about color, right? So it's not just saying that anyone who has a sacral chakra, because you were talking about you being a root chakra and you a manifester, and how you're eating lean meats and it's about your adrenals. And now I can make the connection to lean meat and blood and red, right? But not necessarily chicken, even though there's blood. But like, so can we talk about like how you've categorized the food per chakra? And then I'd love to hear if you have any stories, success stories, testimonials. I know that your story's in here and Dana's story's in here, but I'd love to hear any other stories that you have about someone, either whether they're on a diet or just having health issues and then change the way they're eating based on the system and saw some results.
Absolutely. So, and I too was introduced to the basic approach to chakras and food years, if not decades ago, that you select foods for a chakra based on the color of your chakra. And I wouldn't throw that out the window, because we're talking frequencies when we're speaking to that. So that first chakra in the hips, it's red. It's not red because it's arbitrarily assigned the color red. It's because the subtle energies that come into us through the external world, or even from parts of us, could be codified as reds. It's a frequency. It's about the intensity, and the bandwidth of frequency. And then the messages that that chakra deals with and sends out into the world could be qualified as red. And there's sounds as well. So each chakra runs on a bandwidth of frequencies that it's sort of in charge of, and it churns those energies into, supports, memories, if you would, too, physically, psychologically, and spiritually. More than that, though, this particular diet is interesting because in the past 5 to 10 years, there's been a lot more research about how do you eat for your endocrine glands versus this idea of chakras and colors. And so I really drew a lot on the research. How do you support adrenals versus the pancreas? The ovaries and the testes versus the pituitary, because every chakra is associated with a particular hormone gland or endocrine gland. And we deal with our glands distinctly. Some of them need more protein, some of them need a little more stoking with carbs. For others, there's certain types of fats that might be healthier versus non-healthier. So this is not a prescription. It's certainly not a subscription, what's recommended in the book. It's more like, if you want to eat for your chakra, really consider the glands and how you support that gland that is probably working harder for your soul at any rate than the other glands. And, we all know, adrenals, most of us have burnt out adrenals. So I think we could all use a little bit of help with our adrenals. And the adrenals really respond to healthy proteins, lots and lots of water. Typically, somebody who really burns through your adrenals, like anybody who goes through one of those busy stretches where you just know you're on fire and your adrenals are constantly cooking, you need extra, maybe electrolytes and minerals to keep your adrenals going. You're probably going to tend to just starve yourself and then gorge because you're pushing too hard. So anybody going through an adrenal stress time could benefit from eating for your adrenals. But people who always go through an adrenal time, who is me, also called ADHD, right? Never sits, never stops, is going to benefit from stoking my adrenals. And I don't cook. You cook. You've got that creative, that wonderful, I'm really more the first chakra. Let me get things done. If a meal is going to take more than 10 minutes, it's whatever. It's just not going to get thrown in the oven. In fact, years ago, I was going to have my mother over for Thanksgiving, and we were going to first have a turkey and then go to the movies, because I love going to the movies on the holidays. And so I picked her up from her senior home, brought her to the house. I assumed that turkey had been basting, cooking for many hours, opened it up, and I had never turned on the oven. So I was like, Mom, we're going to pack bag dinners and we're going to eat popcorn. And she was a little startled because she's not the type of person I am, but she had a really, really good time nonetheless. However, I do make choices that stoke my adrenals and I eat really healthy for them. And I hardly ever, ever, ever get sick because I know who I am. So I find that when people at least consider the need to feed, to make sure that they're nurturing and nourishing what would probably be their primary endocrine gland or one of their, primary endocrine glands, they do tend to be healthier. They don't have to diet, as much as like diet, which is called starving yourself. And then you pick all the wrong foods when you're starving. But if you follow sort of the guidelines of your endocrine gland, you tend to be healthier. I worked with one woman who was a clear third chakra thinker. Now, third chakra, yellow, solar plexus, it's a thinking chakra. People very strong in that energy center are great with information, data, structure, filing. I know I'm not that person. I can never find anything once I filed it, which is the opposite of what you're trying to achieve. And the gland for the thinker is the pancreas. So if we just step back and we think about what does the pancreas need? Well, people, when they're stressing or overcharging their pancreas, can easily get hypoglycemic, blood sugar can waver. That pancreas has to produce insulin at, kind of a steady rhythm. And so the best approach for a thinker is to eat several small mini meals. And this particular woman I was working with, the thinker, had an amazing administrative job. She was a manager, which a lot of strong thinkers end up running something, organizing. Had 3 kids. That's called over the top organizing. And her husband was more like me. He was the adrenal, sort of person. He didn't really want to eat breakfast. He struggled with that. He just wanted like a big leg of lamb at dinner or this or that. And she was constantly supporting what her kids wanted and how they wanted to eat. And her husband, she took the quiz, she stepped back, and she was a little overweight, didn't feel good about it. People don't when they don't feel like they're in their own body, right? And she said, I have to be structured. She was like, you know what? I'm going to eat structured, small meals, make the breakfast, bring my snack, do this, do that, do my celery and hummus, instead of a candy bar. And she just started structuring her own food and her own way of eating, and got really sensitive that if she felt her energy dip, instead of going for popcorn or caffeinated soda or more coffee, I'm not anti-coffee, don't do that, or, kind of the candy or whatever would pick her back up, she already had better snacks available. And over about 2-3 months, she lost 20 pounds. Even more important, she didn't think she was going to, because she's like, I'm eating all the time. It's like, yeah, isn't that great? She sort of accommodated her family, but they also had to accommodate her. And she, plain and simply, she was happier. She was just happier. And she got her sense of groove, with herself. She was, she figured out what her bedtime was and went there. Her husband might stay up late, pushing through some work or exercising. And she was like, that's fine. I'm going to bed. So when we embrace ourselves and we figure out a style that reflects our soul or our personal self, yeah, we're going to equalize. Our weight's going to equalize. We may still be going, I wanted to lose 20 pounds and I'm just hovering at this, I'm down 10 pounds. Well, so what? If you're happier, you're healthier, you're feeling good with yourself, you found exercises that work for you, because that's part of this too. What's your meditation style? What's your exercise style? It's all about being good with who you are. And that particular woman ended up being good with who she was. She knew herself and she lived as herself.
So if I'm what'd you say? I was the 8th chakra, you thought?
I think you have a lot of 8th. And all that means is that you can access the gifts or the abilities in any chakra. So you can be really physical, first chakra. You can be creative. Here's your cooking, right? Your emotional self, second chakra. You can organize, third chakra. You can do healing and care about people, Fourth chakra. I think you live through the communicating chakra, right? That's what you're doing. That's kind of what your big calling is. That's the fifth chakra, about communicating. I think you have the capabilities of the eighth chakra, and you're sort of, it's like playing a piano. You can play all the keys, and you're expressing yourself the most, but not the only way, through your fifth chakra.
Okay, so I'm looking in the book right now, and where would there be the sort of recommendations or for in the, you said that the colors were black and silver. Is that correct?
Yeah, typically I see that eighth chakra as black and silver. It can certainly be other colors depending on, kind of who you are and what you're about. That's that little center that's over the head. It's not really a little center. It's like a doorway into the entire universe, which is, kind of what shaman people are about. They pull energies from the universe to them, and it's a kind of a really beautiful undertaking. And so the black, when people have more of the black isn't bad. People always think black's bad. It's not. Black is that kind of color in the black hole that absorbs light and holds light. So there's infinite creative potentials in people who do the black color. There's also a tendency for people who have more of the black coloration in that karmic oriented chakra to absorb other people's issues. So you've maybe at times had to work on that tendency. Like, I'm sorry, that's their feelings. I don't want to carry them around for them. Whatever that person's thinking about me, I don't need to know. I certainly don't need to walk around with it. Silver, I would think you're a little bit more silver. The silver element itself deflects negativity. It's just like goodbye bad, right? Can't tolerate it. And it also serves as a transmitter. So people with a lot of silver naturally go, don't like that. That's not good. That's not healthy. That person's hurting this person. That's not okay. Whatever that might be. And get greater transmissions. And that's a typically spiritually used term, but get a sense that they're, kind of getting downloads or uploads or whatever you want to say, kind of from the universe or from sources of wisdom. So there's major, wonderful, kind of philosophies available through the silver component of that particular chakra, but it's really about the mysteries, and it's about making the mysteries real. So they're here. I've worked with different shamans, been trained by them in different parts of the world. I worked with one particular shaman down out of Iquitos. It's in Peru. We were, how do you gauge how you get somewhere in a canoe? But maybe 3 hours down the Amazon in this tiny little village. And he did the whole, healing, herbs, medicine plants, etc., and helped the whole village. And I asked him, why do you do what you do? And he goes, I do what I do to help real people. He goes, I want, young women to have choices. I want young men to become who they really are. I want sick people to either make peace with dying or to get better. So there's a practical nature to the shamans that these days we don't always ascribe to those magical medicine figures, but they're always about, kind of making this world a better place.
Well, I can vouch for that.
You do make the world a better place.
Well, what I'm coming into, and I guess now's as good a time as any, to announce what I'm doing just on the show. I'm actually going to be starting another podcast called Releasing the Goddess Within. And that show is coming out of a deep need for my own realization and actualization of that, as well as that I'm the kind of person that I'm not going to go learn it, take the time to go learn it somewhere else, think I know it, and then teach it. I teach it as I'm learning it, because that for me is the best way to do things. And it's coming out of a calling of really the community that I serve, noticing who I'm attracting, which of course are all a version of me, and just saying, here's what they need next. And I'm feeling, and it's a calling. You mentioned about getting downloads. I'm about to go on a walk here in between this talking with you about your wonderful new book and with serving my next client before I get ready to leave for my event, because I definitely need to go connect with the earth. I need to be grounded. I need to get my circulatory system moving, and I will listen to music and I will get downloads. And that is what happens when I'm connected and grounded at the same time. Just, I was reading about you as a manifestor not liking to meditate. And it's not, I like to meditate, but where I get the clearest downloads is when my conscious brain is busy listening to music and or moving, and I'm outside. It happens more outside than inside. I'm outside, whether it be near the ocean, or now that I've moved, I'm near mountains and I'm constantly walking in the mountains. And then that's when I get just hit after hit after hit. And this vision and this title and this work, I didn't know how the sacred feminine work was going to come about. I mentioned it before earlier on the show, and I said that it's probably what I'm going to be moving into. And I had no idea what that would look like or feel like. And then boom, last week I got that clarity. I was like, all right, well, this is what's happening and this is how it's going to roll out. So I definitely get that. And I know everyone has that conscious ability to also receive messages when we're really turned on and in alignment and, firing on all cylinders, so to speak. And we access the parts of our brain that we might not normally use because someone told you how to be psychic to get channeled messages. But I love this idea that I'm a mystic. And because that's what you're calling eighth chakra, I think, right? And the shaman and right. So I look forward to diving even deeper into your book with that and trying out some of these things on myself and really exploring that. I think it's such an interesting, more than interesting, it's a profound system. It really does tie the physical and the spiritual together for me. And, because we have to eat to live, we make choices every day. We live in the physical world, but we're also spiritual beings having a physical experience. So we also want to connect that energy in real ways. And this is an opportunity. So it gives it another level of mindfulness. There's a card deck that I found around here, and it was a mudra card deck. And for those who don't know what a mudra is, it's the hand position that you make. And you can do it whenever. You can do it when you're meditating. You can do it when you just do it. And I have always wondered about how, I thought about them. I'm like, I don't know. And now that it's card deck, anytime I meditate or I'm doing anything sort of mindfully, I might pull a card to activate what mudra is appropriate for me now. And so all of a sudden it makes me want to meditate more because I have a purpose. And same thing with this chakras, food and you. When you have another choice besides weight loss and another choice besides general health, when you're looking at what you're going to eat and what food you want to incorporate into your life, I think this gives it another level. It's like what feng shui did for me when it came to clutter. Now, I'm a Pisces and I am a firstborn, and I am also I can live in a little bit of chaos just fine. Doesn't bother me at all. I am not OCD. I do not need to have everything neat and put away. In fact, it feels a little cold for me to have everything neat and put away. So I have this level of comfort. I'm not a hoarder, but I have a level of comfort in sort of any environment. And when I learned about feng shui, it's rather than clean your room or clean your office because you should. Well, I don't respond to that. I don't know who responds to that, but clean your office because you should. Well, all of a sudden I learned about feng shui and clutter and it slowing down and blocking, manifestation energies. I was like, well, okay, now I have a better reason than should to clean off my desk or to keep this area of the house more neat because it's a bagua that has to do with relationships, or it's a bagua that has to do with money. And so the chakra food in you feels like another level of choice that is more meaningful and more, I think, not mindful, but conscious. So I really enjoy, when I heard that you had this book coming out, I wanted you to come back on the show and share it because again, it's obviously so in alignment with what I do in my community and what they're interested in, because I think it makes you look at yourself differently than just a body. Would that be accurate?
Yes. And it's that consciousness, which is, first of all, though, I just want to say thank you for moving into the divine feminine. We need the balance. Men, women, however people identify themselves, we need that balance. When I was doing a lot of shamanic studies down in South America, over many, many, many years, I was always entranced with the legend that at some point, the eagle of the north will meet the condor of the South, the eagle they saw as a masculine and the condor as a feminine, and they will come together, and then the world will be in a good place. So we need some rising of the condor and the divine feminine. I think we all do, to balance everything. But, making decisions based on your chakras really is about your soul. It's about knowing who you are. In fact, it was interesting when I was working on this book, and Dana was a friend of mine, was in on the project too. I was talking to my son about it. This must have been 2.5 years ago. He's a baseball player. He's a baseball pitcher. Now, he grew up with me as a mother. So energy is sort of like his middle name, even though it's not actually on the birth certificate. And he was like, well, Mom, what's this chakra stuff? So what chakra am I? And I was like, well, right now, you're really a first chakra person. That's physical. But you also have a lot of second. And he goes, wait a minute. I believe at some point I'm going to be fifth chakra. And I said, I think you are, because I think you're going to turn around once you make the majors and then bring kids who consider themselves to be losers into their power. And what happened is he was on a bus talking to me, a baseball bus, talking to me when I was speaking that to him. He goes, oh my God, I got to go. He called me back maybe an hour later. His neck had completely adjusted, just thinking about his fifth chakra, just going, I will be using that chakra. Very quiet, introverted young man, right? And since he even considered, hey, I'm going to be fifth chakra sometime. I'm going to be a communicator. I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to be a leader. Not only did he start literally choosing different foods, just sort of, he just did it naturally. He didn't read my book. None of my kids have read any of my books. So, he just started making different choices. He started going, I need more minerals, Mom, or I need more of this and I need more of that. And I'm going to adjust my diet this way. But he's been more talkative. He actually started YouTube channels where he trains younger people with his own, kind of developed techniques. So, we grow, we change, just like you're saying, guidance came, spoke with your soul, your soul spoke with you as well, and said, this is the next stage. We go into different stages. So nothing about a system, anybody's system, is supposed to freeze us in time. It's supposed to support our growth and our blossoming and our flowering. And, so if one day, we're eating like a first chakra person, me, and then we get up and we're like, I want to be more creative. I'm just going to do my emotions for a while. I'm going to paint, which we're really never going to see Cyndi Dale do, but whatever. There, people get struck by lightning too. Then you evolve and change your choices to support your well-being.
That makes sense. And it allows for flexibility and intuition and being able to choose. And I think when it comes to quote unquote dieting versus diet, like I think I've asked somebody in the past, what's your diet? Oh, I'm not on a diet. I'm like, no, what's your diet? What do you eat?
Yeah,
diet. Not are you
different.
Dieting? What's your diet?
They're
right?
different.
Right. They're very different. So this as a diet and as a diet system, allows people the flexibility and the growth and the expansion, if you will, into possibly what they think they are, and then to allow themselves to grow into more. Because I think all of us on this path, on this journey, especially those in my community, the ones who are conscious, the older souls of the world who are wanting to heal and break through patterns and wanting to grow and feel this inner calling, this inner knowing of more. And they recognize patterns that stop them from growing, and they don't want to be a part of a system culturally, energetically, emotionally, socially, physically, that is binding or finite, they realize that they're expansive beings. And so I think this is a great system to incorporate and to put on and to try on, because it does allow for flexibility. And I just want to mention where people can get the book. So would it be chakrasfoodandyou.com is the best place, or cindydale.com?
I would just look at cindydale.com, and there's a link there and it'll take you there. Of course, it's at Barnes and Noble, Amazon. I always think it's cool to, if you can get to one of your indie bookstores, to order from them. We want to keep them in business too. So that's a terrific way to, to kind of support the vendors out there as well. And it's not just about about chakras, my favorite, actually, I have a favorite chapter in this book, and it's chapter 3. It says that it's practical, and it is, but it also talks about the subtle energies of different foods. So when you're craving protein, what are you really looking for? Well, of course, protein, we have amino acids, they make up our muscles, and then the other thing, but on a subtle level, and 99.999% of all beings and objects are made of subtle energy. So what are you really looking for? You're looking for strength. So let's say you're feeling particularly weak or a little run down, or you feel like somebody's going to stomp at you in a meeting. That's not when you want to go for a carb. Those are comfort, but you're just going to get mushier. I don't mean physically. I mean, your energy is going to be not quite so crisp. So go for a protein instead. And there's nothing wrong with fats. I mean, healthy fats need to be the basis of, pretty much any diet, to be honest. Fats can energetically hold shame. So if you're not feeling good about yourself and you go for, really fatty food, I mean, which who doesn't love, fried chicken or fried okra or fried this or that? I'm not against any of that. But if you're already in shame and you're eating a lot of fatty foods, you're probably just going to feel worse about yourself. But fats on a positive energetic are very bonding. They can help us feel nurtured. They can help, kind of fill us in. And so go for a fat, like a healthy fat, an avocado or something like that. If you're looking for that sense of, hey, I love myself, I go for a healthy fat. So you can play with the subtle energetics of various foodstuffs, not only with your chakra type foodstuffs.
Yeah, the book is extremely comprehensive. You cover a lot of things. It's not just, here's what your chakra is and here's what to eat. It's a very in-depth book of even just meditation and self-care and the whole 9 yards. So it's a really cool system, and I really encourage everybody to get a copy of it. Especially in my community. So again, CyndiDale.com. That's CYNDI, Cyndi Dale, DALE.com. The link will be in the show notes also. CyndiDale.com, chakras, food, and you. Anything else before we wrap up today's show, Cyndi, that you just want to mention? I know you did about the energetics in chapter 3, your favorite chapter, but anything else? Because again, the book is very comprehensive. But anything else that you feel like just has to be said today for the people that are listening?
No, I would say have fun with your food. I mean, I remember being a kid. I remember my parents actually let me put my fingers into my birthday cake. I think I was 2 years old. I still remember how fun that was. So, let's shed some of this propriety. Now, when you go to a restaurant, use your table manners, okay? But enjoy your food. You already started, our episode with saying that, JJ, love your food, love yourself, you'll love your food.
Oh, a food love affair is absolutely missing in our culture. Food is the enemy, and that has to stop, because that relationship with food will keep you in a cycle of being stuck anyway. So again, that's why this system elevates us above that. And I would recommend everybody get a copy of Chakra, Food, and You by Cyndi Dale at CyndiDale.com. CYNDIDALE. It is also in the show notes. And thank you so much for coming back on to tell us and to share with us this amazing piece of work, this beautiful book, and this amazing system that I hope will not only transform others, but will help to connect us in a new way with our food.
Thank you, JJ.